A storm tears across the Blackridge fields as a father trades his daughter to the king, believing her barren and worthless. But the moment their hands clasp, the Alpha King's wolf lunges toward the crying girl beside him, whispering a word that could ignite rebellion across the kingdom. Mate. Before we dive in this story, please subscribe and tell us the country you're watching from. This story will make you believe that no one is useless. The storm deepens, rumbling like the growl of an ancient beast as Rowan Valterre, Alpha King of Blackridge, watches the father release Ayla's trembling arm. What should have been a simple political exchange, a barren girl offered to the council as a servant, suddenly becomes a charged, breathless moment he cannot break away from. Because his wolf, usually calm and obedient during matters of state, surges forward with terrifying clarity. Not toward the hall where noble, fertile daughters wait to be chosen as queen. Not toward the future his council has carefully scripted for him. But toward her, the fragile girl clutching her stained dress, shoulders shaking, eyes lowered in shame she never earned. Ayla Thornheart. The one everyone agreed was worthless. Rowan's breath stutters. His vision narrows. The world tilts onto a new axis. His instincts demand he claim her. His reason insists he cannot. His kingdom expects him to ignore her existence entirely. This moment, is his trolley dilemma. Does he follow a lifetime of tradition and duty? Or accept a truth that will unravel everything his people believe? Lightning cracks across the sky as Ayla lifts her eyes for the briefest second. And Rowan feels destiny snap tight around them both. He is meant to walk into the mate selection ritual and choose a fertile noblewoman. But fate has already chosen for him. And as the storm rolls overhead, he realizes that this single choice will drag the buried prejudices of Blackridge into the light. Purpose: establish emotional attachment, injustice, and world building. The storm outside the Blackridge field seemed to echo Rowan's inner chaos, its thunder rolling like a warning from the ancient spirits themselves. Ayla's lifted eyes, wet, frightened, pleading to be unseen, still floated in his mind as the world around him blurred to gray. But Ayla herself. As Rowan stared, everything in the present folded away. Because her story did not begin here. Her fate had been unraveling long before the king arrived. And Ayla knew it. Ayla Thornheart had been 5 the first time she realized something in her was wrong. She remembered the festival lights glowing red and gold across their small village. Children her age were lined up before the embers tone, an ancient slab said to awaken the wolf inside the young. Villagers gathered to watch each child feel the first flicker of the animal spirit that would guide them for the rest of their lives. Her younger sister Lyra, only 3 but already bold and adored, bounced in their mother's arms. Ayla herself stood beside her father, small hands trembling from excitement rather than fear. One by one, children touched the ember tone. The reactions were small but visible: shivers, gasps, tiny growls. But when Ayla placed her palm upon the stone, nothing happened. No warmth. No flicker. Not even the faint tingle children described. Her father cleared his throat loudly, pretending it was just nerves. Her mother tugged Lyra closer, concern tightening her face in a way Ayla wouldn't understand until years later. The villagers whispered. Her father pulled her hand away, a tad too quickly. "It happens," he said stiffly. "Try again next year." But that was the night Ayla realized her parents didn't look at her the same way they did her sister. That was the night the word first entered her life. Blessingless. The next year, nothing happened. The year after, still nothing. By the time she turned 7, the village had already decided her fate. Some children were late bloomers, yes, but Ayla wasn't considered one of them. Her body grew, her mind sharpened, but her wolf remained silent, unreachable. Her mother began keeping her indoors when noble families passed through. Her father began inventing excuses for why Ayla couldn't join neighborhood children during moon ceremonies. And everywhere she went, she heard the whispers. She's empty. She has no fire in her blood. She should have been born human. Blessingless. The word clung to her like a stain she couldn't scrub off. Children laughed. Adults pitied her. Her sister, beautiful, lively Lyra, began growing into the golden child everyone adored. Her wolf stirred early, signs of awakening flashing like silver light behind her eyes at age 6. She could sense emotions, sense, and danger before anyone else. And the more Lyra blossomed, the more Ayla dimmed. Ayla used to believe her parents' love was unconditional. She had memories full of warmth, her father swinging her around the kitchen, her mother braiding her hair before bed. For years she clung to those memories like lifelines. But as she grew older, those moments grew scarce. Her father's laughter faded whenever she walked into a room. Her mother smiled less and scolded more. Her sister grew louder, brighter, while Ayla grew careful, afraid to draw attention that had once brought joy but now summoned only disappointment. At 12, Ayla overheard her parents speaking in the dead of night. "She's a weight on Lyra's chances," her father whispered. "No noble family will look at us with a barren girl in sight." Her mother sighed, tired and resigned. "It's not her fault." "That doesn't make it less true." Ayla pressed a hand over her mouth, holding in the sob that threatened to escape. She hadn't known she could break twice in the same minute. When Lyra was chosen to represent their village at the Crescent Trials, a prestigious ceremony for gifted young wolves, preparations began months in advance. Ayla had sewn Lyra's ceremonial ribbons herself, each stitch a whisper of pride and pain. The day before the trials, her father approached her with a new dress folded carefully over his arm. "You won't be attending the ceremony," he said without meeting her eyes. Ayla's throat tightened. "But I helped." "That's enough." His tone cut sharp. "People talk, Ayla. They say Lyra's chances will drop if they see you beside her. Because I'm blessingless." Yes. The word hit harder from his mouth. Her mother placed a hand on Ayla's shoulder, but even that touch felt obligatory, strained. "It's better this way," she murmured. "For the family." For the family, not for Ayla. She went to her room quietly, clutching the dress she wasn't allowed to wear. Outside her window, she could hear Lyra laughing while their parents rehearsed her ceremonial steps. Ayla bit down on her sleeve to keep from crying out. That was the first night she believed love was conditional. In Blackridge, wolves were ranked by strength, lineage, and awakening age. Blessingless girls ranked beneath even omegas. Villagers treated Ayla with polite distance at best, outright mockery at worst. Children her age howled at her as a joke. Teenagers threw scraps of bone at her feet during market moon to help her wolf grow. She learned to keep her head down, to walk quietly, to expect nothing. But some days were worse. Once, in the public square, a merchant refused to sell her fabric. "Why waste good cloth on someone who won't be claimed?" he said with an easy shrug. Another day, she overheard a group of women discussing potential mates for Lyra. One scoffed. "As long as the king doesn't lay eyes on her barren sister, she'll be fine." Laughter followed. Ayla carried those words home like invisible bruises. The selling was not sudden. It was slow, calculated, inevitable. When Ayla turned 16 with still no signs of a wolf emerging, her father began meeting with merchants and noble intermediaries late into the night. Ayla listened from the staircase, heart pounding as muffled voices floated through the dim hall. "She's old enough," a man whispered one evening. "Does she work?" another asked. "She can clean, cook. Stay out of the way," her father replied. "Will she protest?" "No," her mother murmured bitterly. "She thinks she deserves this." Ayla curled her fingers into the wood of the staircase until her nails cracked. They weren't planning to marry her off. They weren't looking for a place for her to belong. They were negotiating where to send her. Not for her future, but for theirs. The worst part? Her mother didn't object. Neither did Ayla. Because deep down, a part of her agreed with them. On Lyra's 18th birthday, the Thornheart household glowed with music and joy. Lanterns filled the sky, floating upward like drifting stars. Nobles visited, bearing gifts and praise. Lyra stood in the center of the celebration, radiant and powerful. Her partially awakened wolf glimmered beneath her skin, her eyes holding the silver glow of her lineage. Ayla served drinks quietly, wearing a plain brown dress that blended with the walls. Whispers circled like smoke. That must be the Barren sister. She's pretty, but without a wolf? Useless. Why let her roam around with guests present? Her father eventually pulled her aside. Stay in the kitchen, he snapped. Don't humiliate us. Ayla bowed her head. Yes, father. Her sister glanced at her with faint apology, but offered no defense. That was the night Ayla stopped trying to exist in the spaces she wasn't wanted. The morning the decision became final, the house felt colder than usual. Her mother stood at the kitchen counter packing a small bag. 2 dresses, a loaf of bread, and Ayla's blanket from childhood. Where am I going? Ayla asked quietly. Her mother stiffened, but didn't turn. A place where your limitations won't cause problems. Ayla breathed slowly. A place to serve? A place to be useful, her father corrected from the doorway. His tone held no cruelty, just indifference. It stung worse. When? She asked. Today. Ayla nodded once. The old Ayla, the Ayla who cried behind her sleeves and clung to glimpses of affection. Would have begged, pleaded, asked why. But this Ayla simply accepted. Because she believed what everyone had taught her. She was an empty vessel. A burden. A mistake they were finally correcting. Her mother placed the small bag in her hands. You'll be fine, she said, but her voice was thin and fragile. Ayla smiled gently. It's all right, mother. I understand. And she did. They didn't hate her. They were simply done hoping for her. The storm had not yet arrived, but the wind already carried the scent of rain. Her father led the way through the worn path beyond the village, not speaking, not looking back. Her mother followed quietly. Lyra stayed behind, her absence louder than words. Ayla walked slightly behind them, eyes on the ground. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't ask who she was being given to. She didn't ask why they had chosen this path rather than any other. She already knew. She believed she deserved nothing. And so she walked willingly. Not because she was brave. Not because she accepted the future. But because she believed she didn't have one worth protecting. Her parents stopped at the edge of the field, just as thunder cracked for the first time. Ayla looked up and froze. Because standing in the shadow of the gathering storm was a man she recognized from stories whispered across the kingdom. A figure carved from ancient lineage and moon-blessed power. The Alpha King, Rowan Valtaire. Her father stepped forward with a rigid bow. Your Majesty. As agreed. And Ayla realized this wasn't an act of desperation. This was a trade. A strategic betrayal dressed as sacrifice. Her life exchanged like a bargaining chip. Her father took the king's hand firmly. Her mother didn't look at her. The world fell away. Thunder rolled. Lightning split the sky. Ayla lifted her eyes. And destiny looked back. The ceremonial bells of Blackridge Palace tolled once. Low, heavy, and expectant. It echoed through marble columns and polished obsidian floors, drawing every gaze toward the grand hall where destiny was meant to follow rules, not rewrite them. Tonight was the mate selection ceremony. Noble daughters moved in perfect formation, draped in shimmering silks meant to flaunt lineage and power. Each wore a practiced smile, the kind bred through years of instruction and whispered ambition. Their fathers watched proudly, their mothers calculated silently. The council sat elevated behind the king's dais, ready to nudge Rowan toward acceptable choices. Everything in this hall was designed to control him. Everything but the pull he couldn't silence. Rowan stood rigid at the center of it all, crowned, powerful, and completely unfocused. His wolf paced violently under his skin, a restless storm clawing for release. He tried to listen as the herald announced each young noblewoman, listing their houses and virtues, but the sound blurred. The pull. It burned in his chest like a thread of moonlight tugging him, insisting, demanding. Find her. He curled his fingers around the edge of the throne to stay grounded, swallowing hard. The nobles mistook his distraction for regal contemplation. The council exchanged smug glances. This would be easy, they assumed. They did not feel the rising thunder in him. They did not feel the ancient call that was growing stronger. They did not know Ayla was in the room. Hidden in the far shadows, Ayla carried a silver tray of refreshments. Her steps were silent. Years of servitude had taught her invisibility. She kept her eyes low and her breath shallow, doing everything possible to blend into stone. She didn't belong among nobles, not anymore. The girl who once ran free in moonlit forests was now a ghost in the palace hall. She placed goblets on a long ceremonial table, making sure not to disturb the procession. Her heart beat calmly, until a strange, shivering pull tightened in her ribs. She froze. No, not here. Not tonight. She shook her head gently, forcing herself to ignore the sudden tremor of instinct. She blamed exhaustion. Or the heavy incense. Anything but what she feared it could be. But the pull did not leave. It intensified. And at the same moment, Rowan inhaled sharply. His head snapped toward the shadows. Everything else disappeared. The nobles. The council. The endless ceremony. The future they tried to script for him. His wolf surged forward with a feral, triumphant growl that only Rowan could hear. His vision sharpened, locking onto the faintest movement near the pillars. A servant girl. Carrying a tray. No, not just a servant. His. The recognition hit him like a violent shift of gravity. His chest expanded, breath stuttering, eyes glowing with silver as instinct overrode restraint. Before thought could catch him, his wolf lunged. Rowan stepped off the throne. Down the dais steps. Into stunned silence. The entire hall froze, as if the moon itself held its breath. Noble daughters stared in disbelief, their poised smiles cracking. Parents stiffened, horror creeping into their faces. Council members jolted forward, whispering sharply. What is he doing? He can't. She's a servant. Stop him. Ayla felt his approach before she saw him. The pull became overwhelming, something ancient, undeniable. Her hands trembled, the tray rattled. Then she looked up, and for the first time, their eyes met. The world broke open. Rowan's breath left him. Moon above. Ayla staggered back. No, this can't. But it already was. Rowan reached out, not touching her, but claiming her all the same. His voice echoed through the hall, steady and thunderous. The moon has chosen. Gasps erupted. The nobles recoiled as though burned. Someone cried out that it was a disgrace. Another hissed that the king must be bewitched. Chaos rippled instantly. The council leapt from their seats, robes flaring. Your Majesty, reconsider. She's no match for the throne. A servant can't be Luna. Someone silence her influence. She must have cast something. Rumors sprouted like wildfire. She bewitched him. She lured him. She poisoned fate itself. Ayla stood frozen, panic flooding her veins. Rowan stepped between her and the rising uproar, jaw set, aura blazing with raw authority. His wolf snarled at the hall. A warning too primal to challenge. The ritual was broken. The kingdom's expectations shattered. And fate, wild and ungoverned, had finally spoken. The council chamber had always felt cold, but today the marble floor seemed to bleed frost into Rowan's boots. 12 elders, each in dark ceremonial cloaks, sat in a crescent around him like carved statues ready to crack. Their expressions carried no warmth, only fear thinly veiled as duty. "Your Majesty," Elder Kale began, voice brittle with age and judgment, "the kingdom faces a threat of instability. The queen you've chosen, she cannot bear heirs." The words were a blade, slid not into Rowan's flesh, but into the air, slicing away the last traces of subtlety. Rowan didn't flinch. "You speak as though her worth lies only in her womb." "It lies in lineage," Elder Mira countered. "A barren queen means an empty cradle. An empty cradle means rival clans rising. Succession wars. Bloodshed." She leaned forward, silver hair sweeping across her shoulder like moonlit steel. "We have a duty to prevent that." Rowan's jaw locked, grinding against the instinctive growl threatening his throat. "Duty." They used that word like a chain. "And what of my duty?" he replied, voice low, "to choose based on instinct, not politics?" Elder Kale's eyes flashed. "Instinct cannot guide kingdoms. It can barely guide wolves." The chamber hummed with tension. "Your wolf doesn't understand what is at stake," Mira said. "A queen who cannot produce an heir is a liability. You risk the future of every pup, every clan, every border." Rowan's hands curled against the armrests. They fear more than barrenness, he realized. They fear losing control. But he said nothing. Silence was sharper. Ayla accused. Meanwhile, Ayla stood alone in the adjacent hall, her cold fingers twisted in the hem of her dress, feet trembling against the stone. Torches crackled overhead, each flame seeming too bright, too loud, like it was searching for her secrets. When the door burst open, Elder Torin stepped out, gaze cutting through her. "Come." Her breath hitched. She followed. Inside, the air choked her. 12 pairs of eyes landed on her all at once, hungry, suspicious, condemning. "Girl," Kale said, "you understand the consequences of becoming queen?" She swallowed hard. I understand responsibilities, yes." "Responsibilities?" Mira scoffed. "Or ambitions?" Ayla froze. I didn't pursue." "You manipulated the king," Torin accused. "A weak, wolfless girl hiding behind pity. Playing fragile to gain power." Her knees nearly buckled. "That isn't true." "Your silence," Mira said sharply, "is telling." "I'm silent because I'm terrified," Ayla whispered. But the elders exchanged glances, the kind that turned innocence into guilt because it served them. "Convenient," Kale murmured. "Fear is a perfect veil." Rowan stood abruptly. "Enough." His voice echoed like thunder breaking the roof. "She has done nothing to deserve this interrogation." Kale raised a hand. "Majesty, your affection blinds you. My instincts chose her." "Instincts," Mira echoed, "have doomed kings before." Rowan stepped forward, placing himself between Ayla and the council. "I will not let you twist her fear into manipulation." Ayla's eyes pricked with tears. No one, not once in her life, had stood for her like this. The moral debate reborn. The room shifted into something heavier. Something more dangerous. Rowan felt it, the way the elders positioned themselves, not physically but rhetorically. They wanted a moral justification to dethrone her. Kale leaned forward. "Let us speak plainly. Is one girl's life worth risking the kingdom's lineage?" Rowan's wolf snarled inside him, claws dragging against his ribs. Mira continued, "We are not heartless. But tradition has preserved us for centuries. A queen must ensure continuity, stability. Without heirs. You assume heirs come from childbirth alone," Rowan cut in. Torin scoffed. "What else is there?" "Loyalty," Rowan said. "Unity. A queen who commands hearts protects borders more strongly than a dozen sons." "A poetic notion," Kale said coldly, "but impractical." Rowan's voice dropped. Tradition is not a god. It does not get to decide her worth. Ayla's breath shuddered. No one had ever defended her beyond a passing word. Rowan's unwavering certainty felt dangerous, like sunlight striking ice until it cracked. And what of your responsibility to us? Torrin pressed. To the clans who expect a future? Rowan straightened. My responsibility is to protect the kingdom. And choosing her is part of that. You endanger everything, Mira said softly. For a girl who cannot give you even a single heir. Ayla felt each word like a needle pushing into old wounds. But Rowan didn't hesitate. She gives me something far rarer. The elders leaned in. Rowan's eyes softened, just a fraction. She gives me instinct without noise. Clarity without force. Loyalty without expectation. She grounds my wolf. He turned to Ayla. She is not a liability. She is the only thing keeping me steady. Ayla sucked in a breath. The chamber seemed to shrink around them, trapping the heat of his conviction. Rowan refuses to reject her. Kale rose. Then you leave us no choice. Rowan's wolf pushed forward, eyes burning gold. Do not push me. You would defy the council? Mira asked. I would defy the world before I reject her. His voice cracked with raw promise. Ayla's eyes widened. She wanted to believe him. But promises were fragile things easily broken by kings, crushed under crowns. Yet, something about Rowan felt unbreakable. The council sensed it too. Kale finally exhaled, a long, frustrated breath. Then you force the kingdom onto a dangerous path. Rowan tilted his chin. Then I will walk it. The prophecy fragment. Just when the standoff threatened to split the room in two, Elder Mira reached into her robe and pulled out a crumbling parchment. Ayla felt the air shift. What is that? Rowan asked. A fragment recently uncovered from the old archives. Mira unfolded the paper with trembling fingers. We kept it hidden until now, uncertain of its meaning. But perhaps it explains your wolf's reckless behavior. Her eyes met Rowan's. Then she spoke the words. When the crown falters, a wolfless bride shall rise. She will bear no heir of flesh. But she will birth a new era. One that reshapes the throne forever. The chamber fell silent. Ayla stared, numb. Wolfless bride. The phrase struck her like lightning. Rowan's heartbeat echoed in his ears. His wolf surged with recognition, not fear. Destiny. Mira lowered the parchment. We do not know if she is the one. But the description is. Exact, Rowan finished. Ayla looked up at him, trembling. Rowan. He stepped closer, voice a rough whisper. It was never about heirs, Ayla. It was about prophecy. And for the first time, hope. Thin, fragile, trembling opened its eyes inside her chest. Here is Chapter 5, Ayla's Wolf Awakens, 1,000 words, written in the same tone as your previous chapters, emotional, immersive, intense, and character-driven. The night should have been peaceful. Mist drifted across the palace training yard, silvery and soft, glowing under the moon like spilled magic. Rowan had brought Ayla there after sensing her restlessness, an ache beneath her ribs, a pressure in her bones she couldn't explain. She thought the fresh air would ease it. Instead, it only sharpened the feeling that something inside her was pacing, awake and angry. Rowan stood a few feet away, his eyes tracking her every breath. Since he rescued her by the riverbank, he had been uncharacteristically quiet, watchful, protective in a way that unsettled her more than comforted her. Ayla, he said gently, what you're feeling, it's not sickness. It's not fear. It's change. She shook her head, hugging her arms around herself. I don't transform. I don't have a wolf. I told you. You told me what you were taught, Rowan finished. Not what you are. Before she could argue, the world shifted. A breeze carried something sharp, metallic, bitter. Rowan stiffened. His eyes flashed gold. Ayla, he whispered, voice dropping into command. Get behind me. But it was already too late. Figures emerged from the mist, 3, then 5, then 7. Cloaked. Masked. Moving with violent intent. Their boots made no sound. Their eyes glowed red with the markings of the Reckoners, the rebel faction that believed the throne had grown weak, soft, and that eliminating the barren human girl beside the king would send the kingdom into chaos. One stepped forward. "Hand her over, Your Majesty. The kingdom deserves a queen with worth." Rowan shifted instantly, half human, half wolf, his lethal form snarling with a sound that made Ayla's blood turn to ice. "You touch her," Rowan growled, "and I'll tear the moon down on your heads." The Reckoners lunged. Rowan moved first, ripping through two of them with swift, brutal precision, but more kept coming. Ayla stumbled back as a blade swung toward her. Sparks flashed as Rowan intercepted it, but another attacker slipped behind her. Ayla felt the cold edge of steel graze her throat. And something inside her shattered. Not fear. Not pain. Something older. Something ancient. It rushed up her spine like fire, burst through her ribs like an explosion of light. Her knees buckled. Her fingers clawed at the air as heat pulsed beneath her skin, too strong, too wild to contain. "Ayla!" Rowan shouted, reaching for her. But she didn't hear him anymore. The world drowned in roaring. Her body convulsed, bones twisting, cracking, reshaping. Her scream tore from her throat, but transformed halfway into a sound that was not human. Her nails lengthened into talons. Her spine arched. Her eyes burned violet, glowing through the dark like twin eclipses. Then her wolf broke free. Not a normal wolf, not the sleek, powerful forms of the Leaken warriors she had always envied. She was huge, shadow-furred, silver-veined, with markings that pulsed like runes along her sides. Every breath she took sent shockwaves of heat rolling through the air. Her presence made even the Reckoners stumble back in terror. Ancient blood," one whispered. "She's an ascendant." "Those wolves died out centuries ago." Rowan stared at her, speechless. He had seen every wolf form in the kingdom, but never anything like this. Ayla's wolf turned toward the attackers. Her snarl shook the ground. The first Reckoner tried to run, but she moved faster than sound, slamming him into the earth with a force that cracked stone. Another swung a blade. She caught it between her jaws and crushed it like dry twig. She was terrifying, magnificent, unstoppable, but also unstable. Every movement trembled with too much power, too little control. Her limbs shook. Her breath came out in bursts of flame-like aura. Her eyes flickered between awareness and wildness. Rowan fought to reach her, cutting down anyone who dared strike her from behind. But a spear flashed through the air aimed straight at his chest. He didn't see it. Ayla did. With a roar that ripped open the night, she lunged, throwing her massive body between Rowan and the spear. It shattered harmlessly against her fur, sparks scattering across the ground. Then she turned, tearing the last attacker away from Rowan with a ferocity that left no doubt. She would kill for him. She would die for him. She would protect him even in madness. The yard fell silent. The Reckoners were defeated, some dead, some unconscious, all terrified. Ayla stood in the center of the destruction, chest heaving, violent power pouring off her like waves of stormlight. Her eyes flicked toward Rowan, recognizing him, then losing recognition. Her wolf form trembled violently. "Ayla," Rowan said softly, stepping toward her despite the danger. "It's me. You're safe. You're not a monster." Her massive body swayed. The violet glow in her eyes flickered, dimmed, and her knees buckled. Rowan caught her before she hit the ground. As her body shrank, the ancient wolf dissolving back into trembling human flesh, she collapsed into his arms completely naked and completely unconscious. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin burned like fever. Her fingers twitched as if the wolf was still clawing inside her, unwilling to sleep. Rowan pressed his forehead to hers. "You saved my life," he whispered. "Ayla, you saved me." By the time the palace guards arrived, gasping at the destruction, word spread like wildfire across the kingdom. The barren girl was not barren. She carried a wolf no one had seen in 1,000 years. A wolf powerful enough to reshape destiny. But Ayla did not hear any of it. She lay limp in Rowan's arms, caught between worlds, uncertain if she was a miracle or something the world should fear. When the mask of a kingdom cracks, what emerges is not chaos, but true. The great council chamber was built to intimidate, high ceilings carved with wolf sigils, torches burning blue-white, and a stone floor that amplified every step. Tonight, however, the room felt small, crowded, tight with secrets clawing their way into the open. Rowan stood beside Ayla, his presence a storm barely held in check. The council members gathered before them, pale and strained. They had been summoned, not invited, and none could hide their fear. The first truth dropped like a blade. "We knew her wolf wasn't gone," admitted Elder Maroth, voice quivering. "Just dormant." Rowan's wolf surged, a silent snarl rolling through him. Ayla blinked. "Dormant?" "But they said, my mother said, I was barren. Broken." The elder flinched under Rowan's glare. "It was never barrenness. Her wolf slept because of the prophecy. The one the kingdom buried." A whisper moved through the council like rot spreading under floorboards. Maroth continued, defeated. "A dormant wolf girl, marked by lunar anomalies at birth, destined to awaken the rebirth moon. A wolf so powerful it would challenge the old order." It struck Ayla like a physical blow. She had spent years believing she was defective, unworthy of belonging to the world she was born into. Yet here she stood, the very threat the council had tried to smother. Rowan stepped closer to her, grounding her with the warmth of his presence. His voice was lethal calm. "You hid her. You hid a royal bonded wolf from her king." Another counselor spoke, face tight with guilt. "Her existence threatened the alliances. The noble houses would revolt if the prophecy favored a girl outside their power." Ayla swallowed the rising bitterness. "So you let my life rot to protect politics." Torches flickered violently, as if the flames themselves recoiled from the truth. And then the doors opened. Her parents entered, dressed in embroidered finery, escorted by guards. Rowan had demanded their presence, and they arrived with hollow smiles, rehearsed and brittle. Ayla's heartbeat fluttered painfully. Mother. Father. The people she still, foolishly, hoped would defend her. Rowan's voice cut through the hall. "Tell her what you did." Her mother's eyes darted, calculating. "Your Majesty, surely there's been a misunderstanding. Our daughter, she was sickly. We could not care." "Enough." Rowan's command cracked like thunder. "Speak the truth." Her father's mask slipped first. Greed flashed in his eyes. "Fine. We sold her, yes. But only because the council required discretion. We were compensated for the inconvenience." The room gasped. Ayla's breath hitched. Inconvenience. She had been reduced to a transaction. A stain to be scrubbed off their household ledgers. Her mother sniffed dismissively. She was never going to be a proper wolf. Better she served quietly than disgraced our name. That was the wound that finally broke her. Ayla stepped forward, voice trembling yet clear. "For years, I begged you to see me, to love me. And now you stand here, still trying to make my pain sound reasonable." Her mother folded her arms, unrepentant. "You should be grateful we didn't leave you in the forest." Ayla's breath shuddered, but her spine straightened. Something old and buried rose within her, a strength uncoiling like a dawnlit wolf stretching after a long sleep. "No," she whispered. "I'm done being grateful for survival." Rowan watched her, pride burning quietly behind his rage. Ayla turned to her parents fully. "You didn't break me. You abandoned me. And now? Now I choose myself. You no longer have any claim to my name or my future." Her mother's lips curled in disbelief. "You think you can reject us?" Rowan's growl answered before Ayla could. "She already has." Guards stepped forward at his signal. Her parents paled as they were escorted out, stripped of their false dignity for the first time. And beyond the chamber walls, rumors exploded across the kingdom. Some traditionalists called Ayla an omen of disaster, claiming the prophecy would unravel their ancient hierarchies. They demanded she be removed, silenced, exiled. Others whispered that she was chosen by the moon goddess herself, a sign of rebirth, destiny, and long-awaited change. Ordinary wolves, servants, farmers, unmated women looked to her with wonder. A threat, a hope, a storm. Ayla stood in the middle of it all, no longer running from her truth. Rowan reached for her hand, a touch raw with devotion and certainty. This kingdom will face the consequences of its lies. But you will not face anything alone. For the first time in her life, Ayla believed him. Not because she belonged to him, but because she finally belonged to herself. The night destiny awoke without permission. The moon rose enormous and red gold, as if the sky itself burned in anticipation. The rebirth moon, an event spoken of in dusty records and temple whispers, had not shone for 3 centuries. But tonight it climbed the sky for one reason. Ayla. She stood in the sacred clearing behind the palace, surrounded by ancient stones carved with runes that pulsed softly beneath the moonlight. Her heart hammered as warmth curled under her skin, gentle this time, not violent like before. Her wolf sensed the moon, and the moon sensed her. Rowan stepped beside her, shoulders tense, but eyes steady. The entire kingdom watched from behind a ring of guards, the council in the front row, their faces pinched with fear and denial. "Are you ready?" Rowan asked softly. Ayla swallowed hard. "I don't know if ready is something I can be." "Then be brave instead," he whispered. "I will stand with you, whatever happens." "Whatever happens." Ayla let the words settle into her bones like armor. The ritual began. Elder Mira lifted her staff, moonlight gathering at its tip. Ayla of no clan, Ayla of no awakening, stepped forward for the rebirth moon's judgment. A hush swept across the crowd. Ayla stepped into the center circle. Her breath caught. A pulse of heat shot down her spine. Her knees buckled, and she fell forward onto her hands. But she didn't scream this time. The transformation flowed through her like familiar fire, wild, overwhelming, but strangely gentle. Her bones reshaped. Her skin shimmered. Her heartbeat deepened into something ancient. When her eyes opened, the world glowed. Color, heat, instinct, memory. Her wolf, her true wolf, rose from within her like a queen claiming her throne. She shifted fully, standing tall and enormous, forswirling like night sky and silver storms. The ancient markings along her limbs glowed brighter than they had even during the attack. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Ascendant. She's the prophecy. Wolfless bride, reborn. But one voice drowned them all. Rowan's. Ayla, he breathed, awestruck. You are magnificent. She stepped toward him, her massive head bowing to touch his chest. He placed his hand against her fur, and the connection snapped bright and fierce through the bond. Their wolves aligned, his golden power merging with her silver-violet glow until the air itself hummed. That was when the first explosion hit. A blast of fire erupted at the edge of the clearing. Screams followed. The traditionalist faction, those who believed barren women were curses, those who wanted Ayla dead, had chosen this moment to strike. Kill the Ascendant, someone shouted. Rowan snarled, shifting mid-sprint, golden fur exploding outward as he launched himself at the attackers. Ayla moved too, instinct pulling her like a string. Her wolf didn't hesitate. She leaped into the chaos, electricity crackling with each stride. The rebels clashed with palace guards, but her presence split the battlefield like a storm. An arrow streaked toward Rowan. Ayla intercepted, smashing into the archer with enough force to send him flying. A blade swung for her throat. Rowan caught the attacker, crushing the weapon beneath his claws. Together, king and ascendant, they fought like twin tempests. Ayla's wolf ripped through illusions and shields with ancient power. Rowan's strength steadied her, anchored her. They moved as one creature, one instinct, one rising storm. The rebels faltered beneath the combined force of their wolves. Within minutes, the rebellion collapsed. When the last attacker fell, silence rippled across the clearing. Ayla shifted back, trembling but standing tall, moonlight washing over her bare skin like a second awakening. Rowan shifted beside her and wrapped his cloak around her shoulders. The council approached, ashen, shaken, humbled. Counselor Oren stepped forward. Alpha King, the kingdom we cannot accept. Rowan cut him off, voice steady but filled with quiet thunder. You will accept her. or you will challenge me for the throne right here." No one moved. Ayla stood straighter, Rowan's cloak clutched around her. Her voice, though soft, carried to every corner of the clearing. "I was called barren. I was called useless. I was nearly killed for what I lacked. But today you all saw the truth." She lifted her chin. "I was never empty. I was becoming." The murmurs turned to stunned silence. Rowan stepped forward, taking her hand. "The old laws end tonight. No girl will ever be condemned for her wolf's timing or lack of one. Or for her fertility," Ayla added gently. "A life's worth is not measured by a womb." Her courage, soft, steady, unflinching, broke something in the crowd. Tears shone in the eyes of women who had spent years hiding. Men bowed their heads. Even children whispered her name with wonder. The council exchanged a look, one final resistance, and then bowed. By decree, Oren announced shakily, "The laws on fertility, and on blessingless girls, are abolished." Cheers erupted across the clearing. Rowan turned to Ayla, voice thick with emotion. "Ayla, will you stand by my side? Not because of power, not because of prophecy, but because you choose this." Ayla looked up at him. The moon crowned the sky behind him. Her heartbeat aligned with his. Her wolf stepped forward inside her, offering its answer before she even spoke. "Yes," she whispered. "I will." The kingdom erupted in celebration. Elder Mira stepped forward, raising her staff once more. "Then let it be known. Ayla, ascendant of the rebirth moon, is queen." Rowan bowed to her, not as king to queen, but as mate to mate. Ayla closed her eyes as the roar of the crowd swelled around her, warm and overwhelming and surreal. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel lesser. She didn't feel cursed. She felt chosen. As the moon bathed her in molten gold, she breathed in the night and whispered the words that would be etched into history. "The kingdom once called me barren. Now it calls me queen." Dawn rolled over the kingdom like a soft breath, washing the palace roofs in pale gold. The air was cool, crisp, carrying the scent of pine from the distant mountains. Ayla stood at the balcony railing just outside the royal chambers, barefoot, wrapped in a robe of deep blue wool. Her wolf was awake beneath her skin, rested, alert, stretching like a creature that had slept for years and finally tasted freedom. Rowan stepped out behind her, his hair still damp from washing, a towel slung casually over one shoulder. The domestic sight made Ayla smile despite the weight of the day ahead. He slipped his arms around her waist from behind, lips brushing lightly against the curve of her neck. "Good morning, my queen." Ayla leaned back into him. "It feels like the world changed overnight." It did. Rowan's voice was warm but threaded with tension. "And now we face the consequences." She turned slightly to look at him. Vera was the first step. "She was the smallest step," Rowan corrected gently. "The real battle begins today. The council will expect answers. The clans will demand explanations. And the old families," he exhaled slowly. "They will resist change with everything they have." Ayla nodded. "Then we give them change anyway." Rowan smiled faintly. "That's my queen." But Ayla noticed the worry he tried to hide. His shoulders held a quiet strain. His eyes flicked constantly toward the horizon, as if anticipating a threat that had not yet revealed itself. Ayla touched his cheek. "Whatever happens today, we face it together." He kissed her palm. "Always." The throne room doors opened with a low rumble, revealing the full council gathered below. Nobles from every major clan filled the semicircular chamber, their robes a riot of colors and symbols. Elders stood rigidly near the front, whispers breaking like small storms among them. When Ayla and Rowan entered, the room fell into a crackling silence. Ayla could feel it, the tension, the disbelief, the awe. Her markings glowed faintly under her skin, enough to make several elders avert their eyes. Rowan took his throne. Ayla stepped up onto her dais, her first time standing there officially as queen. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Counselor Oren cleared his throat loudly. "Your Majesties, before we begin, protocol demands we address the unprecedented events of last night." Ayla raised a brow. Unprecedented? You mean the rebirth moon returning after 3 centuries? A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. Oren pressed on stiffly. Yes. That? Rowan leaned forward slightly, golden eyes sharp. Speak plainly, Oren. Oren swallowed. Many believe Queen Ayla's transformation was a celestial anomaly, a misinterpretation of prophecy, or an uncontrollable threat. Ayla felt the insult like a cold blade, but she didn't flinch. Do you consider me a threat, counselor? She asked quietly. Oren hesitated. I consider any power that rivals the throne a threat. Rowan's jaw clenched, but Ayla lifted a hand, subtle, calming. My power does not rival the throne, she said gently. It strengthens it. Strengthens us. Some counselors murmured agreement. Others muttered darkly. Oren squared his shoulders. There is also concern regarding the old laws. Removing the fertility restrictions will save lives, Ayla cut in. Oren blinked. Women were exiled, Ayla continued. Beaten. Killed. Children abandoned. Families torn apart. All because of lies tied to a woman's worth. Gasps echoed, but not of outrage. Of awakening. Ayla stepped down from the dais, walking toward the council with slow, deliberate steps. I was one of those women. Condemned before I had a chance to become who I truly was. A soft murmur rose from the chamber. Some sympathetic, some shocked. Rowan watched her with pride so clear it burned. Ayla lifted her chin. The kingdom nearly lost its ascendant because of those laws. If you doubt me, doubt the moon itself. Oren's mouth tightened. The clans will not accept such drastic change so easily. Rowan stood. Then they will learn to accept it. The people will resist. Ayla cut in firmly. Not all people. Not the women who suffered. Not the men who loved them. Not the children born into fear. She paused. Change rarely begins with the willing. It begins with the brave. A moment of silence. It stretched. Deepened. Then Elder Mira stepped forward. I support the queen, she said. Another elder followed. As do I. One by one, hesitant but resolute, others bowed. Oren's face paled as he realized the tide had turned. Ayla returned to her place beside Rowan. The old laws die today, she said softly but powerfully. And a new kingdom is born. By midday, the palace courtyard had transformed into a sea of wolves and humans alike. Alpha representatives from every region arrived, mountain tribes in heavy furs, forest clans in green-stained leather, desert packs wearing golden armbands. Drums thundered. Banners flew. This was the gathering of the clans, a tradition so ancient even Rowan had rarely invoked it. But today required unity. Or at least the appearance of it. Ayla approached Rowan as he adjusted the clasp of his ceremonial cloak. You called the gathering quickly, she said. I had to, Rowan replied. Rumors are spreading fast. If we let them fester, rebellion will grow before we can stop it. Ayla nodded. Then we walk into that courtyard as one. He offered his arm. She took it. Together, they stepped out onto the palace balcony. The courtyard erupted into gasps. Ayla's markings shimmered faintly. Rowan's golden aura matched hers, the bond pulsing between them a living testament to the power they shared. Ayla lifted her voice, letting it echo across the courtyard. People of the kingdom, last night, the moon called for transformation. Today, I ask you to choose transformation too. A hush fell. Ayla continued, no more punishments for barrenness. No more exile of wolfless girls. No more fear assigned to the powerless. We rise together, or not at all. Some wolves bowed. Some hesitated. Some glared. But none walked away. Rowan stepped forward. The Ascendant Queen speaks truth. The old age ends now. Ayla took a breath. Here came the biggest leap. We invite all clans to witness a new pact, one sealed not by fear, but by unity. An old alpha stepped forward, massive, scarred, his one remaining eye sharp as an eagle's. Queen Ayla, he rumbled. What do you offer in return for our loyalty? Ayla didn't shy away. Protection. Freedom. And an end to the cruelty that has plagued your daughters. The old alpha hesitated, then bowed deeply. The courtyard erupted in a wave of motion, alphas bowing one after another, a cascade of allegiance. Rowan exhaled slowly. Ayla felt tears sting her eyes. The kingdom was beginning to change. The whispers of darkness. But as the crowd celebrated, a chill slid through Ayla's spine. Her wolf lifted its head. Something was watching. From the edge of the courtyard, a hooded figure slipped into the forest shadows. Unnoticed. Unchallenged. But Ayla felt its presence like cold fingers brushing the back of her neck. "Ayla?" Rowan asked quietly. She frowned. "Something's wrong." "Where?" She scanned the tree line. "Gone." "I don't know," she whispered. "But something is coming." Rowan's expression darkened. "Then we'll be ready." Ayla nodded. But her wolf paced inside her. Because what she felt wasn't anger or rebellion. It was hunger. Ancient. Patient. Waiting. For her. The night before the war. By evening, the palace halls were quieter. The clan leaders had been given quarters. Guards doubled their patrol. Rowan began strategizing with his generals. Ayla retreated to the gardens, needing quiet. Fireflies drifted between the flowers. Moonlight danced on the lily pond. Ayla inhaled deeply, letting the night settle her racing thoughts. She sensed Rowan before she heard him. He approached from behind, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You disappeared," he murmured. "I needed a moment." He kissed her temple. "Take all the moments you need." She relaxed into him, eyes closed. "You were extraordinary today," Rowan whispered. The clans listened. The people listened. Even the council began to bend. Change is easier when someone holds your hand through it. Rowan tightened his arms around her. "I'll hold it through everything." Ayla turned in his arms. Their foreheads touched. Their bond pulsed warmly. Then Rowan whispered, "Tell me what you're feeling." "All of it." Ayla swallowed. "Hope. Fear. Power I don't fully understand. A sense that something old is waking up." "And you?" Rowan brushed his lips against hers. "Me? You anchor me. And you terrify me." He smiled softly. "Why?" "Because losing you would break me." Rowan cupped her cheeks. "Ayla, you won't lose me. I am yours. In every lifetime. In every moon." She kissed him. Slow, deep, fierce. The gardens fell away. The world fell away. Only the bond remained. When they finally broke apart, Rowan whispered, voice trembling with sincerity. "Queen or ascendant or prophecy, none of that matters to me. I choose you. Always." Ayla rested her head against his chest. "Then let the world come," she murmured. "We'll face it together." And just beyond the garden wall, in the shadows where moonlight dared not reach, something ancient stirred. Watching. Smiling. Whispering. "Let her rise. The higher she climbs, the farther she can fall."